Good morning. I'm Pastor Liz. I oversee our family life department and worship, so no, that was not a clone or a twin. I have twin sisters, but that's just one of me. So yes, I was here just a minute ago, but I'm back. And I have the opportunity to share with you this morning the second week of our series, When God Doesn't Make Sense. And you could help me out a little bit. I am used to talking to students and children. And so you could help make me feel at home if you would slouch in your chair a little bit. Maybe like fuss with your clothing a lot, check your phone often. That would make me feel right at home with that attention span because I'm kind of used to that. So I normally am over there with them often, and I am really honored to be able to speak to you guys this morning. My dad, Pastor Dave, is in Branson. He is ministering this morning, but they're also getting a little vacation this week, having some rest time. So be praying for them this week. So this is week 2 of our series, When God Doesn't Make Sense, and we are talking about when God seems late. How many of you guys hate waiting? Thank you for being honest. Otherwise, everybody else is like, I love waiting. It's so much fun. But waiting for water to boil, let me see a show of hands. You ate for like food in the microwave. Where's the dinging noise? My parents told me that they knew when I was a little baby, they'd warm up my drink, my bottle, and it would ding off in the microwave, and I'd stop crying. It's like Pavlov's dogs. They hear the bell, and they're like, snack, right? So I knew it was coming. So waiting for the microwave, waiting at the airport, waiting for the traffic light to change. Anybody else like count down? You're like looking at the side, like, 3, 2, come on, change, right? Got to be somewhere. Wait, and you're waiting on this Amazon package. You're watching the tracking like a stalker. Refresh. And then you're like, oh, it's in Champaign. It's almost here. Oh, just kidding. It's in Kansas. Right? Ever been there? They're so mean when they do that. But anyway, I hate waiting. How many of you hate waiting on your spouse? Don't raise your hand. That's an internal answer. We don't want to get you in trouble. That's an internal answer. Do not look at them. Just keep looking straight ahead, right? A chronically late person. So I believe that many of you, whether you're in the season now or you've been in the season where you're waiting, and you're waiting on God's promise. You're waiting for God to do something. You know He can do it. You've seen He can do it in people's lives. You've heard stories, testimonies, celebration of God moving and working in people's situations. And you're like, hello, that's my current situation. Where are you at? Where's your promises that you say are true? So you're praying, you're believing that He can do this, whatever it is. So everybody has something that's it. What is the it for you that you're waiting on God to do something about it? Maybe it's a financial challenge. Maybe it's a relationship challenge. Maybe you're estranged from a child or from your parent or from a sibling. Maybe you're having health issues. Maybe there's a job issue. Maybe you don't have a job. Maybe it's your children that is the problem. Don't raise your hand on that one either. Maybe it's your spouse that's the problem. That's the it that you're like, where are you in this situation, God? Why doesn't God do something about this? Does He not see me? Does He not hear me? Where are you? So you're waiting. Maybe you're waiting to conceive. Maybe you're waiting on the job, waiting on the house to sell. God, why are you making me wait for this when I know that Beth over here got this whole situation taken care of? You worked a miracle. Where are you for me? So there's a key thought I want you to think about. If you have a phone that's smarter than you, supposedly, you can download the Bible app. We are working through the plan called When God Doesn't Make Sense as a church. So when you do that, if you don't know, I'm going to explain it. So on your phone, there's an app called the YouVersion Bible app. You can download it. You can read scriptures. But even more so, you can connect with us, your church family. Our church sends out invites. Hey, you want to join us for this study we're going through for a week or for 2 weeks? And I encourage you guys to jump in on that, to participate in that. You can talk, you can leave comments, you can interact with each other. That's a great way for us to connect as a church family by going through these Bible studies together. So If you have your phone, you can write on a notepad, or if you're old school and you have a piece of paper and a pen, you're going to want it today. There's a few things that you're going to want to remember out of today's sermon. So a key thought is, with God, a waiting season is never a wasted season. With God, a waiting season, we've all been there, or we are all there now. It's never a wasted season. It might feel like a wasted season. It might feel like you're in this holding pattern, flying around the airport waiting to land. Where are you, God, in this situation? But it's not wasted time. He's still moving. He's still working. This morning we're going to look at this story in John 11. Maybe you're like, I know this story. It's Lazarus' story. Mary, Martha, their brother Lazarus, and they were friends with Jesus. They were buddies, and he was invited to their home often. He hung out with them. Maybe he was in their small group, but he was part of their life consistently, so much so that they were like very close. They knew each other. You know, maybe they sat down and like had deep conversations of, this is how I feel and this is how I'm hurting. Plug for life groups. If you're not in a life group, get in a life group. It will help you. It will help you grow in your walk with God. It will help you to have somebody to talk to, somebody to pray with you. So John 11, they were so close with Jesus that they expected, when Lazarus got the bad news that he was sick, that he was really sick, they were like, okay, Jesus, our friend, he heals people. This is what he does. We've seen him heal people. We've seen him work miracles. We've heard about the miracles that we weren't there to see. Like, we know, like, duh, he's our friend, so he's going to come and heal him because that's just a given. If he's going to give this gift to all these other people and heal them of their diseases and help somebody to walk and turn water into wine and to do all these things, why wouldn't he do it for his best friend, Lazarus? So John 11:1, it says, now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. So he's sick. So the sisters sent word. They sent somebody with a message to Jesus. Lord, the one you love is sick. They didn't even say his name. That's how close they were. They didn't even say, your buddy Lazarus is sick. Our brother Lazarus is sick. They just said, the one you love is sick. So they didn't have to say who it was. Jesus is for sure going to come. This is his BFF. This is Lazarus. He's going to come. And so a day passes. And they're like, okay, he's not here. Like, Lazarus, he's not doing good. He's hanging on. Jesus is coming. All right, we know he's coming. He's in our life group. He's going to be here. He'll show. The next day comes. They're checking their watches. They're like, come on, man. Where are you? And if you look in the Bible, there is, if like you know, in the back of all those old Bibles, they had like the maps and stuff. Anybody ever like look at those during church? That's what I always look at, like Paul's route to like I'm like watching the map. So he was in Bethany. Lazarus is in Bethany, and Jesus was only 2 miles away. That's not even Sullivan. That's not even to Sullivan. Jesus could walk that, right? And he didn't show. Day 2 passes. Where is he? The next day, I believe he'll be here. He's our friend. He'll show up when it matters. Oh, is that him down the road? Oh no, that's an Amazon truck. Okay, that's not Jesus. Okay, where's he at, right? So another day passes, and maybe they started doing what I know I'm guilty of. You don't have to fess up to this. Maybe you start bargaining with God. You start reminding God, okay, God, I give outside of Walmart. You know, those annoying bell ringer people, I give to that. Okay, I listen to Christian music, and you know they play the same 3 songs all the time, and I am committed. I listen to that, okay, because I am a good believer, right? I posted Bible verses on Facebook. I said, I'm praying on someone's Facebook post. Come on, God, do this for me. Look how good I'm being at following you. I serve in Kidsmen, God. I serve in Kidsmen in the preschool class, God, and you know that those are tiny, loud, obnoxious little people. So I'm committed, and you are nowhere to be found. You have desperation. We've been there. You don't have to admit you've been there. I will admit for all of us, we've all been there, that we are like, come on, God, I've done all these things for you. Look what I've done. Come on through with your promises. So we have desperation, right? God, you were like Jesus was in my home. Get here. Like you came over when I invited you for dinner, but you're not here right now. So with God, a waiting season is never a wasted season. There's going to be two things I want you to remember today to hopefully build your faith in the waiting, because that's what we need most to keep us going, to have hope, to have faith that God is going to move in our situation. The first one is God's delays are not necessarily God's denials. Maybe he's delayed, but it doesn't mean it's a denial. Just because he's not answered your prayers now doesn't mean he's not going to answer it. Just because he's not done it yet doesn't mean he's not going to do it. So John 11:4, when Jesus heard this, that his buddy was sick, Jesus said, the sickness is not going to end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's son, he's like, that's me, may be glorified through it. So he's like, I'm in control. I got this. Just wait till you get to the end of the story. Wait, and you'll see there was a purpose for all of this, though, that I could be glorified. And how easy is it for us to read the Bible and be like, calm down, Mary and Martha. He's going to come, and then he's going to do a really great miracle, okay? So we know the end of the story. Who has watched a movie more than once, and maybe there's a lot of action and a lot of ups and downs and emotional things happening, or a book, maybe you read a book, you like reading, and you know the end of the story. And it's easy the first time you're reading a book or the first time you're watching a movie, you're like on the edge of your seat in panic, like your heart's racing with them, and you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to fall down the hill? Is he going to die? Is anybody going to rescue him from the side of the mountain? I don't even, like you're panicking and you're very unsure what's going to happen. But once you watch it, you can watch it again and you're like, oh, I know how this is going to end. So you can enjoy it. You're not in a panic, which is a relief if you watch a movie and you get a little bit anxious. But Mary and Martha do not know the end of the story. They do not know how this story is going to end. And many of us sitting here are like, where are you, God? You don't see the end of the story. You don't see the last chapter of the book where it gets wrapped up in a nice, tidy bow. And then what happens if it doesn't get wrapped up in a nice, tidy bow? I hate those kind of movies. I don't know about you. I always want a happy ending because life is not a happy ending. So I need a movie to have a happy ending because I don't like those movies that end in and then they didn't get together. Like, what? No, the whole movie, I thought they were going to get together, and then they don't get together. Oh, I hate that movie. I will never watch it again, right? So I hate the movies that don't wrap it up in a nice, tidy bow, and we often in our lives are like, come on, God, wrap it up in a nice, tidy bow. Give me this thing that works. It all works out. The couple gets together. The thing happens. They get rescued. Nobody dies. We want the happy ending. But we often don't see that. And many delays are actually divine delays. Some examples. I don't know if you've ever been running behind or maybe something doesn't work on your car. There's something that happens out of your control, not just because you're chronically late, okay? But something happens beyond your control where you don't get on the road on time. And then you come up on a crash that just happened. And had you been on time, would you have been a part of that? I often think about that. What are you protecting me from, God, because something I deem bad happened? I got stuck in traffic, or it didn't turn over, or the tire is low, or whatever happens. And even looking back on 9/11, we heard stories and stories of people who, I just happened to not be at work that day. I just happened to not be a place where I would always normally be, and somehow my life was spared, and that's confusing. Like, whoa, what was that? So it's not always an inconvenience. Maybe it's sometimes his guidance and him just saying, well, hold on 1 second. You're gonna be delayed just a minute. It's fine. We'll take care of this. And then you're gonna miss a 12-car pileup. So often we don't know that God has a reason for his not yet. And oftentimes God wants to do something in you before he does something for you. If you have children, I pray, as somebody who works with kids and teens, I pray you're not giving them everything they want when they want it. That's not good. If you don't know that, I'm going to tell you it's not good. I work with your children, okay? And when they don't get everything they want from me, then they get very mad. So oftentimes we have to teach children a lesson. You have to learn work ethic. You can't just be given a brand new car. You can't just be given every little toy and trinket you want, a $800 phone just because you're 15. Like, that's not how life works. And kids need to learn that. And yeah. So oftentimes we have to learn a lesson. And it's not that God's punishing us and making us learn some lesson. Like, oh, well, okay, now you're going to have to learn how to do all this before you can. It's not a hateful thing. Because as a parent, it's not a hateful thing to teach your child work ethic. It's not a hateful thing to teach them the value of $1 and a value of what it means to put in some time and effort and some sweat equity into getting something that they care about and want because they appreciate it so much more. And I feel like we are the same. When God teaches us this lesson, there's so much more appreciation looking back going, man, if you'd just given that to me, I wouldn't be the same person. If I didn't have to walk through A, B, C, D, I wouldn't be where I am today. But in the moment, it's so hard to see beyond, I need this, I want that. And oftentimes we are in the waiting seasons. It teaches us to have patience throughout that. It teaches us to depend on him. It teaches us to call on him and walk by faith and not by sight. And when we don't see it, that we trust him and know that his ways are higher and know that he is a good father, that he wants the best for his children, just like Brad spoke today. Was it Brett? No, it was Aaron in our huddle. Aaron spoke today and said that he read the scripture that a father would not give his child a snake. He wouldn't give him a rock instead of bread, but that he loves us and he wants good things for us. And his strength is made perfect in our weakness. He's shown throughout all of those hardships that we would go through. So God often wants to do something in you before he does something for you. If he hasn't done it yet, it doesn't mean that he's not working. So time passes, still no Jesus, still waiting. Lazarus is getting worse and worse. His breathing is changing. He's getting weaker. And they're like, I thought he was coming. It's like we're running out of time. So he's getting worse, and like that's what a friend does. A friend is supposed to show up. If I had a friend who didn't show up for me when I'm on my deathbed, I don't know that I would consider them a friend. And Jesus is nowhere to be found, and Lazarus takes his last breath. I was like, so much for that praise report. So much for that testimony of look how God moved. Now he's dead, and Jesus wasn't there. Where was he in all of this? Is he out healing Roman soldiers? Is he out healing servants, unclean women who are touching his garment? Like, did they invite you over for dinner? They're not even believers. They're Gentiles. They're not Jewish. All those people you're out helping, and you didn't show up for us. And adding insult to injury, Jesus finally shows up. But the funeral's over. Lazarus has been buried. So much for showing up for the one he loves. Doesn't he have to be told his name? He loves him that much that he knows who his buddy is. But Lazarus has been wrapped up. He's been buried. They brought in meals for the family. The mourners have come in. They've done all the things. And Jesus is like, oh, hey guys, I'm here. Then he shows up 4 days later. 4 days. If I had a friend show up for my grandma's funeral, she just was buried about a month or two ago. If my friend shows up 4 days later, like, oh, hey, I'm here to support you. Like, what? No, you're late. It's over. So not only did Jesus not heal him, but he also didn't come to comfort the family. He didn't come to show his support, nothing. So John 11:17, on his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. 4 days. So we're talking many days. We're talking heat of the desert. We're talking a decomposing body 4 days later. Like, this is beyond help, beyond even probably wanting to be around the body, like, had a very bad odor. And I am going to throw this in if you want to learn something new. In the King James, it says that he stinketh. And if you'd like to use that for, like, your preteen boys' shoes, you throw them across the house, your shoes stinketh, you can sound very important and very wise by putting ETH on the end of whatever you want, right? So, so he smelled. And in the first century, there was a superstitious belief that the spirit could hover around and wait and maybe return to the body in the 3-day span. So Jesus, I believe that Jesus knew this, right? So he goes beyond the 3rd day. So because if Jesus had come on day 1, after he died, or 2 or 3, the superstitious belief in that time frame would have been, oh, well, that's not a miracle. That happens, right? And I don't know if that's because of like comas or whatever that way back then, but that's what they believed. So I think that Jesus waited till day 4, because that's beyond what natural man believes, or natural man, like, they're superstitious, oh, this is possible. But this is 4 days. There's no hope at this point. So maybe you've experienced this, right? You've gotten to the point where you feel like you're at the end of your rope. Hope is past, gone. And I served you, God. You failed us. You let us down. And we prayed, and you were nowhere to be found. So we're going to read on, because Martha went out to meet Jesus. And I was like, uh-oh. She doesn't wait for him to come to the house. She goes out to meet him. Can you imagine? She's like, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to let you in my house, because you didn't show up when it mattered. Where were you? Right? She's gonna give you a piece of her mind. it says Mary stayed in the house. Martha goes out because she's the high-strung one. She has to have everything perfect, like, gotta have all the napkins and the forks in the right order. And Mary's like, it doesn't matter. Everybody's gonna eat. Let's just enjoy. Let's just sit back. She's so laid back and chill. And Martha's like, no, it has to be done right. If that's you, let's just close our eyes, bow our heads, pray. Has to be done right. So she's the high-strung one. And she's like, I'm going to go tell him what is what, because I thought we were friends. I thought he loved my brother. I thought he loved us. Didn't show up. So when Martha heard Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him. But Mary stayed at home. Martha, Lord, Martha said to Jesus, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. You got my text, right? I sent a message to you. You came when I made lasagna. You didn't come today. Where were you? She's hurt. She's very hurt. This is not just like some random person. This is a close friend not coming in the time of need. So she says, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. But then this is where it changes. Verse 22, but I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask. There's this tension in the moment of, I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. I'm angry. I'm hurt, but I believe you. I believe you are who you say you are. I'm mad at you. I feel betrayed, wounded, forgotten, but I love you and I trust you. So where do you sit in the middle of that? And I feel like oftentimes that's where we kind of vacillate. We're in that moment of, but God. And then you're like, but God, right? My sister Faith is 30 years old. She turned 30 in June. And she was given a death sentence weeks after she was born. She had a blood vessel burst in her brain, so she had to go get testing. She had seizures, and they said she has degenerative brain disease. She's blind. She won't live to be a year. If she lives to be a year, she'll be a vegetable. And 30 years, we're talking 30 years, she's not fully healed, right? So we're still sitting in that moment of, God, we know your promises are true. We believe your promises are true. And I've watched firsthand. I was 10 when she was born. So I've watched for the majority of my life, my parents raise a child who can't do anything for herself and walk out in flesh and blood what it means to believe God for a promise and not to see the promise in front of you. And She can't feed herself. She can't go to the bathroom on her own. She can't be left alone. That's a lot of work. If you have a toddler, she's a grown toddler. And so my parents still say, but God, but we believe your promises are true. We believe you can heal. We believe that you provide this. We believe that you love us and you want the best for us, even though we see every day, day in, day out, that the reality would say that that's not happening. So I don't understand, but I believe. So maybe many of you are in that season of waiting. You're not seeing it happen. Your business isn't growing. The relationship is not progressing. Your health is not improving. God, you're not meeting my expectations. I expected you to come through for me. I expected you to fix this, or at least partially fix this. Where are you? So the second thing to remember in the waiting is if God always met your expectations, he'd never have the opportunity to exceed them. So what happens between verse 17? So verse 17, Lazarus is dead. The bad news comes, the bad report. Verse 17, it's over. 4 days later, still dead. And verse 23 happens. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Okay. So Mary's like, yeah, cool. I know he'll rise again. Like when you come back, like I know that at the end of times, you're going to come back and everybody will be resurrected. Like, cool. I know he's going to rise again. Verse 17 is death. Verse 23, Jesus says, your brother's going to rise again. Verse 17, I prayed, I waited, I trusted, no hope. Verse 23, Jesus speaks life. Verse 17, I don't see it. Nothing's happening. But in verse 23, the word of Jesus changes everything in a moment. Because verse 24, Martha answers, I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. She knows that. And so she's like, okay, I get it. And Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And whoever lives by believing in me will never die. So Mary and Martha, they wanted a healing. They wanted him to come and heal. But Jesus wanted a resurrection. He's literally giving an illustrated sermon to them. Like real time, real person, flesh and blood, illustration. You thought that the resurrection would be an event. The end of times, Jesus returns and takes everybody back. And he's like, no, I'm the resurrection. It's a person, me. Like now I am the resurrection. Not when I return and go to heaven, but now I'm moving. I'm always moving. I am that. So he says, I'm the resurrection and life. The one who believes in me will never die. So maybe you're praying for something and you've not gotten that something. Maybe it's a job where you're looking at it and you're like, this is a perfect job, perfect hours. I'm able to do it. It's great pay. It's all these things. It's exactly what I want. It's exactly what I need. And then it doesn't happen. And it's like, what? Like I told my small group to pray and we prayed. I mean, we fasted for this job. We knew this was what I needed, and then it didn't happen. And so there's this disappointment. But then you get a different job and come to find out that's a great job and it's an amazing job. And you look back at the first job and they're doing layoffs and downsizing and there's no longer even a job for you. And then you can go, oh, okay, now that makes sense. But in the moment, like your reaction, I believe, is the true indicator of where your faith in God is. In that moment when you're having disappointment and feeling disappointment of not getting what you thought you needed, thought you wanted, where are you? How you respond is so important. You can be angry with God. You can say, you know what? I tried this whole thing. I tried the praying thing. I tried the fasting thing. I tried the tithing thing. I tried the church thing. It didn't work because God didn't come through for me. But in that moment, you can still choose to say, but God. I believe. I'm waiting. I'm unsure. I don't know if I trust you. I'm trying. So we should thank God for not giving us what we think that we want or we need. Maybe that thing you wanted wasn't as good as what God had planned for you. They wanted the healing. Come on, God, heal Lazarus, heal him. I know you can. Where are you? Get here. And Jesus is like, no, I'm not going to do it like you think I should. I know it doesn't make sense. I know you're upset. Doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to do it like you think I am going to do it. So John 11:43, Jesus says, we're going to take away the stone, right? So they remove the stone. We're still talking, he stinketh, right? So he's like, move the stone. And they're like, do what? You want us to get it. We're getting a dead body out. That's what we're doing. Okay. But Jesus said in a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. The dead man came out. With one word from Jesus, with one moment with him and his resurrection power, the dead man came out. So God's delays are not God's denials. You're on yellow, you're on hold, you're in the waiting season. That doesn't mean it's a no. And a waiting season is never a wasted season. And I truly believe that when we have our attitudes right and when we have our focus in the right place, that God can really work in our lives and we can learn the lessons we need to learn and we can hear from God in those moments and we can learn how to trust and we can learn how to obey and we can learn to use our pain and our moments to be situations that people watch and are like, how are you walking through that? Like, I would have literally lost my mind if I had to do what you're walking through. I literally wouldn't have survived. I don't know how people nowadays in the world that we live don't lose their minds, and they are losing their minds, but how they don't lose their mind or just be hopeless without Christ in their lives. Anybody who's not a believer in this time that we're living in, you need him, you need the hope that he brings. So what now when it doesn't make sense? Earlier we talked about what is it for you. We thought about, is it the situation? Is it the relationship? Is it the job? Is it my healing? Is it everything just seems to be going wrong? What is it that doesn't make sense? Just because your child isn't serving Jesus now doesn't mean their life's not going to be transformed, that there's not going to be someone who will come into their life and them have a transformation. And just because you're not married doesn't mean that he's not preparing somebody. Maybe you lost a job, but maybe a better one's coming. Maybe you got a bad report from the doctor, and it doesn't mean that he's not going to use it as a miracle for his glory. Maybe you can't conceive. It doesn't mean that you might someday, or maybe you're called to adopt. Just because it doesn't look like what we think it's going to look like doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for us. I feel like we all will wake up one day and realize that the scene of some of our greatest disappointments may be the settings of our greatest miracles. That we're feeling disappointed, we're feeling unsure, we're feeling no hope. But that's the setting of his moving and a miracle that he can work in our lives. So what do we do when God doesn't make sense? Maybe you personally know of someone who's going through a sickness. They're literally fighting for their lives. And you're hurt, you don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Whatever that situation that you're in, we are in verses 1 through 16, where Lazarus is sick. They send word. They wait. Lazarus is dead. Maybe you're in verses 1 through 16, and you're like, that's me. I'm here in the bad news season. And we're waiting for those moments of verses 23 through 44, where Jesus speaks. He will live. It's not going to end in death. He will live, and I will be glorified. Maybe you're in that moment. But we're not guaranteed to have a better fiscal year than last year. We're not guaranteed that our health will be better than last month. We're not guaranteed to get the higher paying job, that our spouse is going to do everything right, that you're going to get the better house. Like that's like classic American Christianity. And it's just not accurate. That's not who God is. God is not your personal vending machine where you put in your quarters and you push A27 and get the candy bar. That's not how Jesus works. It's not who he is. But no matter what the next chapters of our lives hold, he will be glorified. I truly believe no matter what happens, that he can use every situation to be a miracle, to be a story, to be a testimony of his greatness and his goodness. I want to read a story that I found, and there's a little bit of differing information about where or how it was found, but the story itself is incredible. It's set in the Holocaust when all the Jews were killed, and if you don't know, I know some of you may not know all about that 11 million people were killed during the Holocaust. 6 million of them were Jews, 5 million were from different backgrounds, and many of those 5 million of people were Christians. Many of them were ministers. And the story says that in one of the death camps, Dachau was built particularly to keep a lot of Christian prisoners. And when the Nazis were dethroned and all of the torture and all of the stuff was ended, there were Christians and believers that were in the towns around that went with the troops to the camp to tell them the good news that they were free and that the Germans had been defeated. And in one of the prison cells, there was a message that had been inscribed on the wall from one of the prisoners scratching it into the wall, deeper and deeper, day after day, scratching this in the wall. And of anybody, the people that were in those camps had plenty of reasons to say, you know what, I hate God. Why is this happening to me? Where are you? Why isn't he getting me out of here? Where is God in my situation? Their attitude could have easily been negative, and nobody ever would have thought differently. They had every right to feel discouraged and hopeless and frustrated and angry. But on the wall it said, I believe in the sun even when it's not shining. I believe in love even when there are no feelings. And I still believe in God even when he remains silent. My dad often has told me, when I'm going through a difficult time, when you don't know what to do, do what you know. Go back to all the things that you know to do, all the things that you've learned. And he often will say that teachers are silent during the tests. And we are learning so many lessons that God wants to impart into our lives and to teach us. But in those silent times, those waiting times, those unsure times, it feels like we've been abandoned. But I guarantee the teacher did not leave the room. He's still there while we're going through and having to, okay, this is what I remembered, and this is what I studied, and this is what I know, and this is what you told me. He didn't leave. But there are times when he feels absent, and he feels late. It feels like we're waiting. And the takeaways today of remembering that a waiting season is not a wasted season. Use this season. If you are waiting and you feel he's nowhere to be found and I can't feel his presence and I can't hear his voice and I don't even want to be at church because it's just a reminder that he's not coming through for me. Everybody gets up and claps when someone gets healed of cancer, but I've got this report that says opposite. Our God is a God who works in everything. He works everything for our good and for his glory, no matter what it is that we're facing. Through the good and the bad, In everything, he is there, and he can be trusted. Even when we don't feel it, even when we don't see it, he's working. We sing about that. We sing. We believe that he can move. We believe that he can heal. We believe that all things are possible. But when it comes down to it, sometimes we have to sing that back to ourselves. Even when I don't see it, God, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. And he wants to bring good to those who love him and who are called according to his purposes. I want to take a moment right now. If you would just stand with me. Maybe you're in this waiting season and you're feeling a lot of the feelings that I've mentioned this morning of feeling unsure, feeling like there's no hope, feeling forgotten, abandoned. But I hope that you can leave today choosing to believe that God is a good God, choosing to believe that there is a purpose in the pain, there's a purpose in all of the situations that you're walking through. And if we could just be honest today, if you just close your eyes, and maybe you say, you know what, right now I'm in this waiting season, I'm in a holding pattern, I'm in verses 1 through 16, I'm in those moments of feeling lost and hopeless. I don't know if I trust him, I don't know if he's really truly working and moving. You just raise your hand. We want to pray with you today. God knows the situation. He can see into every situation that you're walking in. He can see into every moment that you're crying out to him and you're feeling all those feelings of frustration. He's not afraid of your frustration. He's not afraid of your questions. God, I just thank you for every person within the sound of my voice, whether it's in this room or online or in weeks to come, they randomly find this message that your presence knows no bounds of time. But God, today we're asking you, we're believing, we're praying. We want to trust you, God, in this situation. We're believing that it is possible with you and that your plans are greater than our plans, and that even when we don't see it, that you're moving and you're working. God, teach us to trust you. Help us to trust you. God, reveal your goodness even in the darkness. God, that we would find those places that you want to teach us and show us who you are. God, maybe we're believing for healing. We're believing for restoration, believing for forgiveness, for provision, for miracles to be moved in our lives on our behalf. God, no matter what, we know that you will be glorified in our situation. God, that you will teach and show people who you are through our lives, that we would be a walking testimony of your goodness and your love. Can I just ask you this morning, if you raised your hand, can we just do something really practical? I like to use visuals, but also act like an action, right? So maybe there's something we talked in the very beginning. What is it? What is the it thing that is weighing on your mind, that is causing you to not sleep, that is causing you frustration and anxiety, bringing you to tears? What is that thing that you're waiting for, that you're waiting on God to move in. Can you just hold out your hand for me? Maybe hold out two hands if it's a very big thing, right? And can we just place that, just the concept, the idea of, all right, God, this is the thing you promised. I'm waiting. I trust you. I'm going to give it to you because I can't carry it. I can't do this by myself. I can't carry it on my own. I can't worry about it on my own. I need you to take this from me. I truly believe that not only in our hearts as we do that, as we hold out our hand and put those things that we're concerned about, that God will take that off of us. He will lift the weights that we've been feeling. He will lift the heaviness, the burdens, the darkness that we've been walking in because it's hovering over us. I truly believe that He can release that off of our lives today. God, this morning we choose to trust you. We choose to walk in your freedom. We choose to walk in your hope. We choose to walk in your purpose. God, that every step that we would take, every choice, every next step, every next decision would be guided by your hand and not guided by the anxiety, not guided by the frustration, not guided by the hopelessness, but God, that we would listen for your voice. We would trust that you're leading us and guiding us. God, we just thank you that you would be glorified in this situation, that you would be the focus, not us, that it can't be done by man, it can't be done by our own hands, it can't be done by an accident, but God, it will be known that this was done by you. There's no doubt in our minds that you are moving, you are working, and that you have done this in our lives. God, we just thank you. We just thank you for your peace that is washing over us this morning. We thank you that when we walk out today, that we would feel lighter, that we would feel your hope, that we would see the light, that you're drawing us closer to you, and you are working in these situations. I never want to miss a moment to not offer, to pray. Maybe situations happened and you're angry and you turn from God. Maybe that's where you're at today. Maybe you've been really lukewarm because it doesn't matter that much. I come to church. Yeah, I love God. It's okay. I do the bare minimum. Maybe you've never served God. You're like, I don't even know what I'm doing here today. I don't even know why I'm watching this today. I do believe that God has drawn you here for a purpose and for a reason. And sometimes it takes the junk, the mess that's happening, the chaos for us to be like, wait a second, I gotta figure this out. Sometimes that mess draws us closer and it causes us to see all these things we thought were important are not really that important. If you're dealing with a bad report from the doctor, what kind of car you drive, not so important. If your grandma's on her deathbed, like what kind of clothes you're wearing, not that important. And oftentimes it's the stuff, it's the junk, the problems, the issues that are happening that will really bring our focus back where it needs to be and will truly show us what's important in life and what really isn't. So maybe that's you this morning. I want us all to pray together in support of those who are praying this for the first time, those who are maybe returning back to God, maybe those who have been really angry and are like, okay, God, I want to give you another chance. We've had people recently come to church and we're like, this is God's last chance. It was his last chance, me walking in that door, because I was done. And God's transforming their lives. And I truly believe that God can do it for anybody when we call upon his name, that he is there. So let's pray this morning. Heavenly Father, forgive me of all my sins. Make me brand new. I believe that Jesus died for me so that I could live for you. Fill me with your Spirit so I can serve you and follow you for the rest of my life. My life is not my own. Today I give it to you. Thank you for new life. Now you have mine. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. If you prayed that for the first time, if you are coming back to Jesus, we want to encourage you this morning. We don't believe that anybody should take that journey on their own, that they should start their walk with Jesus by themselves. We think it's very important that you have support and love and help. And if you look in the back, there is a banner. It says, I have decided. And we have a book called Following Jesus, and it will take you through 8 weeks of discipleship. It will walk you through. You text the word follow to that number, and it will send you back a message, and then it will continue sending you messages each week as you are reading through that book. It will guide you through it. I just want you to know this morning that no matter what it is you're facing, what it is you're going through, that you are supported, you are loved by the people in this house, by the pastors in this house. And not only knowing that God is in control and he has his hand on your life, but that there are people that are believing and pray for you week in and week out, and that we love you, and that his purposes are greater than your pain. Amen.